Okay, what about now? Assalamu alaikum, y'all. All right, I'm giving time for everybody to come in and join. All right, so question, is the track audible now? Okay, cynical optimist says it's in and out. So thanks for letting me know. Um, in that case, then I might as well not play it. I might as well just go ahead and get started. Now, is my voice solid or is my voice also going in and out? How does my voice sound so far? Okay, all right. Thanks for the feedback, cynical optimist. Uh, I'm glad to know at least that much. There's a way that people can easily add music in during their live streams. I just don't know what it is for them. I've tried, but I just have no clue. I don't really know what that's supposed to be. Um, I've got a mic. Maybe it's cancellation. Maybe that's what it is. Um, but um, yeah, I don't really know how they do it. There's some kind of way they do. I don't know if it's even a different type of orientation. Uh, yeah, I'm not really sure. So in any case, I went live to, in a sense, kind of catch up because it's the first time I've been able to go live. And I won't front, as an audience, you guys tend to financially reward to a medium extent my live streams. And sometimes I just need that extra boost. But I mean that mood boost. I'm going to give a shout out to S. Jock for the times he's come through on the Cash App and for the links he sent to keep me abreast of what's going on internationally. Of course, I invite you all to join the first class lounge of Jet Black Air. If you're not ready for that yet, you can join the business class lounge of Jet Black Air. The link is in the description. Last time I was able to go live was when I was on summer vacation in the U.S. I haven't been able to do it since then. It's been too much going on ever since I got back from my vacation in the States visiting family. It's been a hell of a lot. I've had to, first I have to adjust this chair and I hope it'll be comfortable for my back. But yeah, I've had to get all kinds of, had to get medicine for what's either just high blood pressure or hypertension. And then, and to UB Peace, Judgment Wolf's Den. And shout out to you for joining that first class at Jet Black Air. I've found that I had that when I was in the States, that my pulse rate was accelerated and that I had somewhat high blood pressure. It wasn't the highest, but it was noticeable. So we finally got it under control, and then I got back and the semester got started, and it's been just major crap since then. It's been problem after problem after problem since that point. So it's made me come to understand that there are times where you just have to be a jerk. And I knew this before, but when I forgot about that, I had to realize that again. I had to relearn it. And there are times I have to tell people that I'm going to be a jerk to them on their own territory, in their own yard. And I might not be from there, but I have to do that. There are times where you have to go somewhere, and in order to maintain your integrity and your morality, you got to disrespect the mores and ways. Now, people may go through something and they go through it on their own. But then you are asked to turn them, to turn into those who do the same thing. And you're asked to sanction it when it's not necessary. An example is that many foreigners here feel pressure to be lenient when they catch somebody cheating. I don't have that pressure. People try to apply it, but I don't have it. When I catch it, I catch it. I'll be fair. I'll double check it. I try to scrutinize it, investigate, because I want to make sure that I'm not just accusing someone that's not doing it. But what I find is that even when people are real nice to me, they cheat and they lie. And I have to disrespect them here. I currently have some students who think that I have a bias against Arabs because I don't let them speak Arabic in my class. Not in a full sentence, at least. Not unnecessarily. I give them the blues. I know I'm a non-Arab in an Arab country, and they're Arabs learning English from me, but that's exactly why I say to them that in my class, you don't come in here using Arabic, and I don't care about your funky ass excuses for it either. I told my students, don't interrupt the English language lesson to talk about attendance, and some of them do that. Then I got to tell them, put your little skinny ass back in your chair because I told you not to do this. One of the reasons why I might make a mistake in attendance is because I'm so damn busy, because you guys keep asking me to multitask and do everything except teach you to fix your damn mistakes in English that you're still making towards the end of the semester. And I've been teaching you how to fix them from the beginning. A student came to me today, one of the students that said it to be in the middle of the semester, he said he was a pure Arab. When some other students started a conversation about history, he said, well, he was a pure Arab. I said, oh, okay, right, like that still exists. Today, you know what he did? He came in and he asked me, Professor Black, why did you give me a 52 on a speaking exam? And I told him and the rest of the class from the very beginning to stop using that terminology and that phrase when they're talking about their marks. Don't ask why I gave you the marks. I gave you a point or two because I'm kind of nice and I'm not trying to crush you. But if you want to know why your marks are the way they are, dumbass, it's because you earned it or you earned less. So he asked me why I gave him a 52 on his speaking exam. And I said, man, because you spoke at the quality of about really about a 48%. And he said, well, I nervous. Yeah, that's what he said. I nervous. I had to snap on him in front of one of his classmates. Nigga, didn't I teach you not to say I nervous? Didn't I teach you not to go straight from subject to adjective or subject to noun or subject to preposition? What goes in between subject and another noun or subject and an adjective or subject and preposition? What goes between subject and something that the subject can be? And he even said, well, I am don't use the verb be. I am don't. Now, see, that's where you ain't supposed to use the verb be, dumbass. And here you are doing it. That's why you got a 52. Stop and think about it. You talk, you do this, you get it backwards, you reverse the rule, and you do it throughout your speaking. What the hell? Now, there's a time when you're new in English and you don't know the difference. But if you know the difference, you're in an advanced class and you come into me in front of me and I teach you to fix it again, which you're supposed to already have fixed by the middle level, then why are you asking me why I gave you a 52? You want me to go back and make it a 48? Take away the little funky 4 points I gave your ass? Yeah, that's what the fuck I fought. I got to be disrespectful sometimes. Damn the culture. Damn the way they see the world. Damn their worldview. Y'all remember when Rick James in the Dave Chappelle skit, at least, Rick James went to Eddie and Charlie Murphy's house and ground his muddy boots in the couch, and he was like, F your couch, ninja, F your couch. And that's what I got to be like with them. F your culture, ninja, F your worldview. And that's how it is that a lot of us got to be nowadays when we talking to the sisters. When they start saying, well, you got to understand, we start, one of the things that we need is a double standard of understanding. No, we don't need to understand. We've been understanding. It's your turn to understand without us returning the favor, to cancel that bitch out. That's one of the first double standards we need right now. We're very urgently needed double standard. F you mean we need to understand. We've been understanding. You don't. You ain't done nothing but turn up the pressure, turn up the heat, ask for stuff we don't have, blame us for stuff that we don't have, no matter how much we do have. Tell us to go and build something when we've already done that. Blame us for somebody else burning it down, and then blame us for not having it again when someone else burnt it. You saw it in the community tab. We build, he burns, and you blame. That's what we're dealing with. So why continue to try to be understanding and sympathetic to their trauma? A lot of their trauma, and they're those who've been through legitimate, real trauma. And now we don't have any sympathy left for them because we can't tell who really went through it and who just felt the trauma from listening to their friends talk about it versus who went through tertiary trauma, which is really none at all, by watching some fictitious character on TV go through it. The Color Purple, anybody? An entire effing generation of sisters got re-traumatized again by watching a fictitious movie. Not one character in that mother cuss word was real. Now all these sisters walking around here traumatized and blaming us. I bet Daniel Glover and Adolph Caesar didn't know what they were getting into when they went to film that movie. A lot of people don't. A lot of actors don't really know what it's going to be like till it's over. Now it's a cult classic, but as much a cult classic as it is, it's just one example of many works of fiction that have worked to re-traumatize sisters that were never traumatized before and had them cussing us out. What year did that movie come out? I ask you for a reason. Because you know what? One of the reasons I have to ask you is because if you look at Roxanne Shantae's song, Brothers Ain't Shit, that was the name of it. You look at that song, when did that come out? Let's take a look. I'll let one of you tell us in the chat. Someone type color purple in the chat. I'm doing like my like Dennis Sperling. I'm gonna channel my inner attorney Sperling. Somebody type color purple in the chat room. But while you good morning, Gail at night, what's happening? But while you are looking that up, let me look up something right quick too. Hold on. I don't know how this thing works. Every time I type, boy, I get something I did not type. Roxanne Shante. Let's see here. And she even said it. That's the funny thing. Roxanne Shante. All right. 1992. So this is after the color purple. 1992. Brothers Ain't Shit was the last track on an album that she released, The Bitch Is Back. October 1992. And then that's October. So 2 months later, Bitches Ain't Shit was the last track on Dre's album. I think Dre and Snoop. So she put that out just 2 months before Snoop and Dre put out Bitches Ain't Shit. But guess who caught the flack for it? See, how many of us didn't even know that Roxanne Shante put that song out? So we're going to have to take away this understanding. It's not because there's never a time for it. Understanding has a time and place, but it's been so abused and overused in one direction and so underused in another that to balance it out, you now got to apply it in the opposite direction because it's already a double standard. See, I'm not talking about introducing really a new double standard. I'm talking about taking an old pre-existing double standard and giving it another direction, the opposite direction. No, we don't understand a mother cuss word thing. You can fit the guck out our face with the sure bit. Ain't nothing to understand. You traumatized. You watched The Color Purple. I'm actually traumatized in real life. And the thing is, I haven't been, to be fair, I myself have not been through the same level of trauma as many other brothers have. Shout out to Contractor. He's been sharing my stuff lately. Contractor has stories. I shared his in the community tab maybe about an hour and a half ago. All compassionate and callous. What's good? Shout out to the Lion. And thank you for that answer, Michael Ross. You had no idea about Roxanne Shantae's song. Now, on one hand, that means it didn't get the same press. But on the other hand, I mean, she wasn't Dre. But on the other hand, she'd been rapping she'd been rapping on the East Coast longer, I think, than Dre had been rapping on the West Coast. At least with national exposure. We're talking about 3 years into either one of them probably being a millionaire. Or 4 maybe. Because I think, NWA Straight Outta Compton was 1988 or 87. I remember hearing about it that fall of 88. That's when I first heard about them. Eazy-E with his nasty mouth. Nasty something else too. But you see, that was the issue right there, man. So Roxanne Shante puts this song out, and it doesn't really make waves. It doesn't get a whole lot of publicity, but it was played. When I read the lyrics, I wondered why they sounded so familiar, even though I didn't hear the song. But then it dawned on me. They played some kind of clean version on the radio a few times, but it wasn't possible for them to really play it. And as a matter of fact, there were some songs. What really jarred my memory was that when I listened to hers, I realized that there had been several songs before that that were like that. It wasn't just hers. Michelle A had that IBWC, Intelligent Black Women's IBWC, Intelligent Black Women's Coalition. Now that wasn't a problem, but she was talking about what guys were doing. And you know, she was talking about brothers. She was talking about what brothers were doing. And she had a little song out. I guess the song was like I played. She said I had a wiggle in my walk and a giggle in my talk. Guess after all that talk, I got played. Because somebody put it down in the bedroom and you felt good afterwards, that doesn't mean you got played. Because you liked the dude after you smashed him, which means you had to like him to smash him anyway. So you made a decision to smash a dude you like and you didn't regret it. And now you saying you got played, and look what door that opened up. She made a song about that. And before she even got to the parts in which he was with other women and all this other stuff, after she let him smash, she's just singing about, I liked him, I let him smash. He put it down, and I don't remember all the lyrics and all the rhymes, but except for that last one, I had a wiggle in my walk and a giggle in my talk. Or maybe it was the reverse, but I remember that rhyme scheme. And that's what she said. I guess after all that talk, I got played. And now what you got today, you got women withdrawing consent retroactively and putting accusations on dudes. And to make matters worse, this false accusation coming from our own race, so to speak, it seems to be going up. Either it's more exposed or it's going up. I'm not sure which one, maybe a little bit of both. But I mean, all this time the sister's been talking about brothers shouldn't be with anybody else because because Becky would falsely accuse this. This is not something you hear about other groups doing a whole lot of. Usually the false accusations come from white and black. Generally. And if it comes from a woman of another race, it's not normally something they learn from sisters a whole lot. But it's generally, when we're falsely accused, white or black. And that's why one of the reasons I say, okay, yeah, go ahead and avoid Becky. I mean, sisters ain't making it up when they talk about Becky. They're just exaggerating it. And then they're downplaying the extent to which they level false accusations, like what Brian Banks had to face. And that chick and her mom are still wherever they are, they're hiding out. But these false accusations now it's becoming regular run-of-the-mill routine. Jonathan Majors gets it from Grace Jabari, whose dad's not even a real white man. And then Isis, whose real name apparently is Paloma, levels these accusations against her husband because the whole time, according to her husband's niece, it's her own oldest son that's doing this to not only the daughters, but even to her youngest son. Which is why the husband, the provider husband, that turned her into a so-called trophy wife, which I thought it was against feminism to be in the first mother cuss word place in women's lib, decided, well, your son from before is not going to sit up here and be bothering our kids that we got together. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to get that boy some help. And she wants to cover it up. So he's like, okay, you know what? Divorce. You ain't getting no money, probably because whatever state in which they live doesn't require that this early into the marriage. She's like, okay, I'm going to get this bag one way or another, except working for it. I'm not going to do that. Working and saving. Oh, God, no. Because she knows most people can't get a bag doing that, just working and saving, especially if they got kids. And we already know you got a bunch of sisters with kids, and Look at this stat right here. 52% of brothers that are single and childless will be 70%. You got a rising percentage of us that ain't got them. There was 54% last I heard 2 years ago, but 52%, well, that's only a 2% difference. So we're facing all these lies. Yeah, it's time to start taking some of these double standards. When you hear me talk about these double standards, I'm normally not really talking about a new one. I'm just talking about a new direction to the old ones, like I said a few minutes ago. This is what we're going to have to start doing. No, we don't have to understand. Like I tell my students at times, I don't have to understand a furthermucking thing I already understand. This morning, my time, which was last night, you all's time, you all heard what I last uploaded. I'm done understanding. Students that are real nice, real polite, but they always try to wiggle around and create a minor inconvenience to keep me busy unnecessarily. Yeah, it's them. They're the ones that are doing the cheating. Fatso, I just want to run some cold water on my face. I'm getting sleepy. You know what, man? F your cold water. And I'm glad I said that because that's the nigga that I caught cheating with a cheat sheet. Now he participates in class, makes his effort, but when it comes to the exams, he's like, I'm not going to sit up here and take this and risk failing. But no matter how many times I correct his English for him, he doesn't fix it. Matter of fact, when I correct their mistakes in English, you know what they would have to do. I mean, think about it. Look what Judgment Wolf's Den said in here. If he's taking any language class, he's going to be up the teacher's behind. Well, if I were teaching a class, you wouldn't have to do it that much because I know what to put into the class so that you would have maybe a few questions afterwards. I'd help you. You wouldn't have to really do that. But the point is to get your money's worth. I already know how to give it. Because my students' dads had to pay a handsome sum per semester. It ain't cheap for them. I told them in the beginning, I'm not wasting your father's money. You can, but I won't waste your father's money. Don't ask me to do dumb things like cancel class or not teach or so-called go easy when you know that you need someone to prepare you for a test that's not easy. Don't ask me to do that. I told my students, don't ask that. I'm not doing that. And you know what the students are now doing? I got a few of them. Be lenient. No, that's not how the other tests are going to be later on after you're done with me. Cancel class. Let us go early. How about you fit the guck out my face? I'm not allowed to do that. Screw you. You don't want to stay in class? Well, take your ignorant ass on home then. But you marked me absent. Of course, I'm supposed to. If you don't want to be marked absent, fuck the shuck up and stay with us and stop interrupting and asking me that dumb stuff. They keep on trying to wiggle left and right. And those are the students that later on do dumb stuff like cheat. It's them. Because, and here's the thing, in order to look at what Judgment Wolf's Den said, if your dad paid about between $5 to $7 grand for you to take a semester, and one of them was a language class, and you spent the most time in that language class, imagine that that's what happens. This is what winds up being the case. When the teacher teaches you mistakes that you need to fix, you're going to write down the mistakes, you're going to write their corrections, and you're going to repeat the corrections a few times in the class, later at home, so that you begin to naturally say certain things in a correct manner. That's how you're going to do it. Guess what? Fatso. What can I name some of these others? Four Eyes, Sunglasses, Goatee Mac. These are nicknames I'm giving them. These aren't their real names, of course. Super Bedouin. These guys are the main ones that don't do anything you tell them. They don't write anything down. Speak Arabic in the classroom after you told them not to. Repeat the same mistakes in English. Never say a sentence correctly with correct grammar, even if it's a short basic sentence, but this is an advanced class. They do this and they don't write down anything. And then 2 days later, they're repeating the same mistakes. They're wasting their dad's money. I'm not, but they are. And they got the nerve to come and ask me why I gave them a 52% on a speaking test. Because you sound retarded, nigga. That's why. This is not a beginner's class. You're not making 4-year-old mistakes because it's cute and you're still little and cuddly and learning how to talk. We're past that point now. You're a bearded, mustached, stank, smelly, funky grown man talking like a retarded ass 6-year-old, not because the language is new, but because you're not learning a damn thing. Once we tell you to fix something, you're not learning anything because you don't even want to think you ever made a mistake. One of them told me today, as a matter of fact, it was Four Eyes, the one that came asking why I gave him 52%. Came and he said to Dave, nobody's as hard as you. You're not teaching advanced. If there was a level after advanced, you would be teaching that. Of course I would be, because I'm trying to prepare you for what you're going to be going to next. And the next class is next semester. If you pass this one, which you won't, you're going to be taking all your courses in English, but you're not going to have an English class anymore. So in the language that you must learn now, they will teach you all of your subjects, but they will not teach you the language they're using to teach it to you, to teach the subjects. You would take your physics class in English. You would take your calculus classes in English. You would take your pre-calculus classes in English before that if you need to. You would take your law classes, your law classes in English eventually. That's what you're going to be doing. You're not going to have an English class, but you're going to have to use English to understand and to reply and to ask your questions. So I'm preparing you for that. So yeah, you're right. I have to do it that way, dummy. You came in here with broken Niglish and Niglibic, and you're mad because I'm trying to push you to catch up. Double standards. I give nothing and I dictate everything to them because that's for their own good, for their own benefit. Because I told them and I promised them that I was not willing to waste their dad's money. Newsflash, that's what you got to do when it comes to these sisters. The ones that are not out here trying to fight with us, they're not going to make you do this anyway. But what happens when you got some that out here fighting with us and we don't even realize they fighting? What you think ISIS was doing? Or Paloma, her real name. What you think she was doing? She was fighting from the very beginning. She was fighting when she was a single mom. When she pushed away that dude because he didn't get along with her son. I don't think that's the one that traumatized her oldest son to be like he is now. Now, I don't think that's what it was. I don't think he's the one that did it because he wasn't trying to play all nice and all that. Of course, they didn't bond. Little boy was probably traumatized before she got to that dude. She's like, well, he ain't bonded with my son. Bitch, did you bond with his kids? So in a week, she marries a man that's got a nice place for her to stay in and then starts making a channel talking about I'm a trophy wife. She started her channel in 2023. I didn't know nothing about her. Didn't know who she was. She already gets 1 million views. Makes money off of YouTube. I say, hey, look, y'all put about $1 into the Cash App. $1. And I get a few people that send all the support. Shout out to S. Jock. He's been the most consistent one lately. Salute, Mr. Scotland. What's happening, man? And it's not just me. I'm not saying that just to bellyache about my own situation. I like my teaching job minus my students I got this semester. This semester, all of them jacked up in English. There's not a one that's really ready. But minus that, I do like my gig, and my salary's nice. I wouldn't have left another teaching position for this one if it wasn't. And I thank Allah for that every day. But the thing is, she doesn't have to do no damn work at all. She has none of the stresses of being an educator or anything else. And she's sitting up here making money from a YouTube channel, telling a bunch of broke bitches what they want to hear, which really isn't fair to women. It don't mean no harm. Just like when my students come to me with these Arab nigga excuses out the desert, my good students got to suffer too. They don't mean no harm, but they wind up suffering. And that's the thing. The guilty are always causing suffering for the innocent. It's always like that. My students that don't mean any harm are suffering. Ryan's suffering daily. He's trying, but he can't get any. The trying Ryan, that's what I call him. Again, these are nicknames, but he can't get much done because his classmates that are assholes won't fuck to shuck up and learn something. Every time I tell them something like, hey, put the phone down and put your paper and pen in your hand. I'm writing it on the phone, Doc. Okay, see, no, you're not, because you're not repeating any of the corrections. Then they want to start an argument, and Ryan's like, I'm trying to get this lesson. Fuck the shuck up, put the damn phone down, and do what Professor Black told you to do. Trying to help your dumb ass. Or like another student of mine, Big Show. Dude failed a presentation today. So yeah, man, it's the same thing. Trying Ryan and some of his buddies have to suffer because of the ones that ain't really trying. They're trying to get marks without actually trying to better their English. And that's what you're facing the parallel in when you're dealing with them sisters. You have to deal with the fact that because you're so busy having to dodge the smoke screens or see through the smoke screens that the foul ones put up, you can't even find the good ones. Accountability commentary doesn't even say that there are no good sisters out there if you pay attention to what he's really saying. He doesn't say that. He says you're not going to find them. He never says they exist. I mean, he never said they don't exist. It's not realistic. They don't exist. There's no good sister. No, it's not possible. But what he does say, you ain't going to find them. They're too well hidden. So when sisters start talking about you men, that's when we start saying, oh, you fuck the shuck up. You know we're different. And then when we start generalizing and they start saying, not all, you need to say not all. We tell them close their mouth. No, we generalize over here, but you don't get to do the same in return. What's the reason? Because we really are individuals about the ways that we assess women, like women, and treat them. We really are individuals. We're different, and we let the ladies be different, and we let them show which category they're in. It's not the same in reverse. We men are assessed so consistently by so many different sisters that you could group our faces according to how they do it. You're not grouped. You're not assessed by her individually per se. You give her a chance to be an individual. That's true. We do that in general. But you're not being assessed by her individually. She's assessing you through her friend's eyes. And that's why I recorded what I said earlier today about how you can't teach them to stop shit testing you. They either know not to do it, and they might do it sometimes, or they don't know not to do it and they can't learn not to do it. And it's the ones who rarely do it and can learn not to, they're very few and far between. They know what's wrong. So really all you're doing is reminding them, hey, you out of line, that's wrong, and they stop. That's what that is. The ones who don't know how to not do it can't learn how to not do it, and you can't teach them. There's no kind of alpha energy that's going to put that in their mind. I really shouldn't do this to him. And Contractor was talking about what that's about. It's them sitting up and saying, does he deserve this pussy? That's why they do it. And we do that's another double standard we need. No, I'll crap test you from time to time, or maybe early on. I probably won't do it after you pass. Because if you pass my crap test, you win because you passed. You took it and passed. But you don't get to crap test me because you don't know how to do it. That's the double standard we're going to need. Because this thing about misogynoir it's a phenomena that exists. And even then, it's not in a vacuum. It's a phenomena that exists amongst a few guys. And it is largely based on things like what even Contractor had to go through in his lifetime. starting from his childhood. You listen to what he streamed yesterday. He'll tell you that's what it is, y'all. How many of us are doing the same thing in reverse? No. How many misters are there from the color purple in real life? Do they exist? Yeah. How many though? We got to find them. But sisters, meanwhile, are sitting up saying, who hurt you? What's the reason they say that every time you call them out on some sort of double standard behavior of their own? It's real simple. And they turn around and say, well, you sassy. You just want to be a woman so bad. Okay, here's another double standard. Nope, bitch, you want to be a man, but you don't get to say we want to be a woman because we actually want to only be with women that like us or really feeling us. You don't get to call us women or want to be women because of that. Unless you're going to sit up and admit that you women are not capable of loving us. Now, if you want to admit that, go ahead. Which means it's still you, not us. We get to say you want to be a man because you're trying to compete with us and everything, but you don't get to sit up and say that we want to be women because we actually demand the same thing you demand. That if we're going to be together, you actually be interested. That we be together through not only our choice, but your choice as well. That's what you wanted. Choice. Okay, bitch, I don't want to be here if I'm not your first choice. And you act like it. Oh, you sassy. Nope, we're going to flip that double standard too. You see where I'm going with this? Because misogynoir is an extant phenomena that some brothers have, and they had to learn that. Misandrymavros is a real phenomena. It is baked in the cake into the culture, and it is not provoked. Walaikum salam, Brother Campbell. We're not here to talk about fairness. We're here to implement it. That's one of the reasons I said years ago, I don't come to bring peace, but a sword. And I came to turn mother against daughter and daughter against mother and sister against sister and aunt against niece and niece against aunt and granddaughter against grandmother and grandmother against granddaughter. That sounds like something out the New Testament because that's one of the things that the Messiah, alayhi salam, was quoted to have said in the New Testament. I say was quoted. I don't know which parts were doctrine and which ones weren't. But in real life, I came for that purpose. I came to turn those who believe in fair treatment against the ones that got them hiding and running scared right now and silent. That's what I'm here for. I didn't come to bring peace. Peace is for those who aren't out there trying to oppress other people. If I want to bring peace, it will be between bros. It will be between black men of various nationalities. And the women that are ready and willing to fight the women that are against us. That's who. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Israel Young Lion. It's good to see you again. Thank you for the compliment, man. It's your Hall of Fame from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. I really do try. And I got you to thank for some of the help in seeing certain things. I don't see things like male misandrists being this way just strictly out of malice, but I do see it. You pointed it out, and I realize there's that. Women call it internalized misogyny when some women believe in treating men fairly or listening to their man, the same men they demand, provide, and protect. And they say, okay, yeah, but I'm going to listen and be submissive. Well, other women will sit up and say, well, that's internalized misogyny. They'll say that. No, I see a lot of dudes with internalized misandry. The difference is this. When I see internalized misandry in men, again, I see that it comes out of deception. I mean, you couldn't get me to talk about both sides when I was younger without me really believing that it was men and women just messing over each other. That's what I thought it was. I later on came to realize that you had a few dudes messing over all the chicks and the rest of the dudes getting the blame for what a few dudes were able to do and did. And the dudes who were able to do it and didn't do it had no respect for women because the women looked at them like, well, why aren't you out here fucking all these bitches? What's wrong with you? You can and you're not. That's real. I had to realize that the one thing I didn't see was men internalizing misandry without being lied to. I was lied to. Most of us were. We men in the West, white and black alike and everything else, have been so lied to. And I'm not saying this because I have a sympathy for the white manosphere. I don't. I would have been a part of the black manosphere back in 2012 if I'd known the asses existed. I didn't know that though. But I knew about the white manosphere back in 2012. And here they were with their little conservative Republican talking points. You niggas need to get over it. But we're going to fight back against the bitches that are oppressing men. I'm like, wait a minute, hold the motherfucking phone. Pardon my French. We need to get over what your asses did, but you never going to forgive your bitch for what she did to you. But we need to forgive her for what she did to us with false accusations, for which you were glad to lynch us even when you didn't believe her ass. Man, F you to hell. I would have been part of the black manosphere if I'd known they existed. I didn't know. I listened to the white guys. I say, boy, you got it right about gender, but your views on race are ucked up. I'm done with you. I thought, how am I going to sit up and weed out the gender consciousness and give it to brothers? And I found a black manosphere, fortunately. But as I found a black manosphere, I found out what sisters have been doing for generations. And I got to admit, man, I'm with Israel Young Lion on this. I want revenge. Now, I'm not going to call for it and advocate taking it, but I'm going to tell you some men how they can get it. I'm going to do that on the Buy Me a Coffee account. There, I plan to drop a way to fight that gender war. One way for the Muslims and another way for men that ain't Muslim, but for both to win and nobody to lose. I mean, no men, but yeah, when it comes to the deception, the thing is that we Western men have been lied to. The white one, the black one, all we've been lied to in the West so much. And to be honest with you, even in the East, a lot of men have been kept in the dark, but not really lied to. We've been lied to. We have been effing deceived. So since it's so baked in the cake and it's so pervasive, I wouldn't know when a man hadn't been deceived. When I find that a man has not been deceived successfully, they're the ones that have been on this red pill stuff for years, decades before it was called the red pill, before there was a manosphere. They're the ones that are like, yeah, they've been knowing the games. And that's why they sounded like 1970s stereotypical pimps. Contractor, Grinch, the way they kind of sound like pimps. Gotta smack a bitch. I don't really say that, but they sound like that. You gotta put that bitch in her place. And I'm sitting there thinking, I used to say, man, that sounds misogynistic. But now, because of what I'm seeing you brothers go through, what y'all are telling me y'all went through, I sit up and say, damn, no wonder these men sound like that. My mom didn't do none of this stuff. And there were things, like I said, there were things my mom didn't explain because she didn't have the vocabulary. Last summer, I started asking some of these things. I used the vocabulary, and when I used the vocabulary, she would either confirm it. Rarely did she deny. Most of the time, she confirmed it. I asked questions like, "Is this what's going on?" Then I just started making statements, and she was confirming it. All I had to do was find the right way to phrase it. And she was like, "Yep, yeah, that's it." The other thing is that my mom knew I'm not a misogynist too. She knew I didn't just hate women. I just wanted the truth. I wanted to understand it because I didn't want to tell my son nothing about women that wasn't true. That's what I was trying to do. And so she was quite helpful then. But that's why we got to have a lot of these double standards. Now, one double standard I'm not going to advocate for is this. I'm not going to sit up here and say that, when you men fornicate, it's fine. But when she fornicates, she's just nasty. I'm not advocating that. I don't advocate fornication for anybody. But what I would say is that when you men marry more than one, and if concubinage were a thing, if you men had concubines, I would say, um, yeah, okay, fine. But when you mess around here, you see a lady with more than one. No, that's nasty. What happened to the first one? Did he pass away? Okay, no big deal. Did you leave him and he really was doing something wrong? And even then, we want to see some kind of proof about that. Okay, no big deal. Oh, you just went from one to the other, or try to share them and have a menage a three, or some of them call. Okay, now you just nasty. I don't care what impulses you have that you don't determine. You can't help it that you have the impulse. Okay, fine. I don't care if you have the impulse or not. Did you indulge in it? Yeah, we have the right to indulge in the impulse for variety as men. You don't have that right for as a woman. That's what we need to start saying and demanding. And what's the reason? Even when they're nasty like that, they not only manage to leave out most of the men when they're nasty, but they blame the men they leave out for being left out. So who's got the real double standards? This is why I said what I said this morning. Israel Young Lion, I'm glad to hear that you're going to be moving, man. I recommend the South, especially at first, for you to get used to it. The other thing is that in the South, um, the local authorities would generally honor, when I say local, I mean they're not the national authorities, but the authorities of Mindanao. And the people there will generally honor more than one marriage if you're Muslim. If you're Catholic, they won't because you don't believe in that. But if you're Muslim, they'll honor more than one marriage. That's cool. So I'm glad you're going out. You know what? When you get out there and you start like making a living and everything, man, you let me know how to pull that off. Let me know because I know somebody to whom I'd love to pass that info on. But I'm gonna tell y'all straight, man. Um, One of the reasons I said what I said earlier today about how you got this problem, and what I said a few days ago, how you having this problem with sisters internationally. I said this was because Israel Young Lion is not the first one to tell me that this is going on in Africa too. He ain't the first one to explain this to me. There's a brother on the continent that told me a hell of a lot of what's going on in his country. And his country has Cubans that are psychotherapists. It's an African nation, but there are many Cubans, a lot of African Cubans that are there in that country as psychotherapists. Here's the kicker. They're sitting up and saying that they have begun to notice how it is that the women of his nation hate the black men of that nation. And we're talking in Africa, tropical black Africa. We already know about South Africa, ruined. You go into the countryside in South Africa and they're nice, but they expect you to play stepdad. They're just nicer about it. They got their men running to Cape Verde, but the Cape Verdean women are running their men away from the cities. So we got a problem in the Anglosphere diaspora of the Americas, Haiti as well. We got that going on. Ask me how I know about Haiti. But then you go to the continent, and the continent needs a map. I mean, are there traditional parts of Africa? Yeah, sure, but it's like you need a map because you got to like know their attitudes towards men. I can tell you, in Somalia, they don't like just walk around hating men. It's not quite like that. But when they realize that you want to marry them or you're interested, they can be some real. It's like they make good friends, but when you take an interest in some of them, they start thinking, okay, you know what? How many lions have you killed? They're not Maasai, they're Somali, but they start talking like that. Uh-oh. Salute, Solomeo. Come vai? And I'll tell you, yeah, Ethiopia, they actually don't even have it in their culture where the women just get buck on the men like that. But when you get into them cities where the infrastructure is, it's been creeping in. There's a brother, Muslim brother, got married to a Muslim woman from Ethiopia. They got stateside, she flipped. That's one of the things about Ethiopian women. You mess around and take them into the States or Canada, and they flip. It's a question of when, but they flip. In recent decades, it's gotten worse. And for Haiti, somebody told me that I'm trying to remember who. I think actually it was Manosphere Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. But someone was talking. Someone mentioned to me a particular ache and pain in a particular area, and he met a woman from Haiti, but in another country, who was a massage therapist, and she never mentioned that because she didn't want to be asked to treat that particular pain. That's what she does for a living, but she didn't want anybody to know. She didn't want this brother to know. And I'm one of the lucky ones because my wife, when it comes to Somali culture, my wife will turn around and say, nope, I'm not following everything out of that. Some stuff is just wrong. It's wrong even according to the religion. We don't have an excuse. And there are times I got to remind her. Now, that's with anybody. But I want you to understand that there's a limit to the kind of quality that anybody can have. And therefore, you got to start looking at these sisters and start saying, like what Passport OG was saying yesterday, no, I'll listen to your input, but it's my way or the highway. Now, you can share gainful information with me. That's helping. That's communicating. But the decision is mine. If you ain't with that, fit the guck out. Go find somebody who is, and you ain't going to like him very much. That's what it is, man. That's what it comes down to. Now, I was not aware that it was like this in Ethiopia, that they got into the countryside too. That's bad. So what that means is Ethiopia's gone. South Africa's gone. We know Kenya's gone. At least Nairobi's gone. Now, Austin seems to be doing well in Nairobi, but he's not there just for the women. You may have a hard time believing that, but I could believe it because he likes Nairobi. I know from Kenyans that the chicks in Nairobi, wild the uck fout, that they will smash and fornicate some dude because they just want to screw. Then when they turn up pregnant, he just gone, just bye. Are you gonna keep it? Oh well, I'm not gonna be here. Then they just bounce, and then them same broads gonna turn around and go to some other dude and try to get that dude to step up, play stepdad. Yeah, it's bad. So strike Ethiopia off the list. We know Nairobi's out. Add that to South Africa. Angola's out. Cabo Verde cities are out, overdone with. Um, I'm going to answer this question here that D asked. D said, "What about West Africa?" Now I'm going to tell you that I know Accra, Ghana, and the South is problematic, and the reason I know that is because Go Black to Africa was talking to some young brothers in the capital city about what they've been experiencing. Now Kenya has its manosphere. I think a lot of it is in Nairobi specifically, but it's available in Kenya. Most of it's run by a man named Amarix on the X platform. But you start looking in West Africa, and I know that Lagos, Nigeria is out. And they say Abuja's out too, because in Abuja, even though Abuja's in the middle of Nigeria, the North Nigerians are conservative. But if the women want to wild out, they have this underground scene in Kano where they can start and they get a taste of the nightlife and the wild life, the wild side of life, I should say. I didn't want to say wild life as one word, but wild lifestyle. I'm not talking safaris and stuff like that, but they can introduce themselves to it in Kano, then just take a train from Kano to Abuja, and that's it. Take off the hijab, everything, act a mother cuss word fool. So that's what we're dealing with in West Africa. But from what I've been hearing, some of them women, uh, some of the women in northern Nigeria beginning a wild to up foul. Okay. Solomeo is in a position to know. He's in a position to know this. But this is what really surprises us. So the Jongo people, called Bajongo, I think Ba in that language is a way of saying the people of. Um, so the Bajongo now have feminist schools opened up amongst them by the UN. So apparently there's an agenda and it's working. So that's what's happened to our home continent. So where does that leave? Some parts of Latin America, and we know Medellin and Rio are out because they like to use that scalopamine. Oh, they love to do that, and they don't care if they kill you. These places are still parts of the Americas. So while they believe in being polite to you as a culture, if they want to just take from you without giving anything in exchange, they'll rob and drug you there. So those two parts of Latin America we know are gone. Don't even get him a shot. So I already know what's happening. I know where this is going to go next. Right now, the places where brothers can go to find wives that are traditional and that like brothers, or at least will get with brothers if they do like them, is Southeast Asia. Well, here's the problem with that. Eventually, what's going to be the case in Southeast Asia is that they're going to go there with the feminism. They're going to target it. And I think it's going to work. So our continent is getting to the point where if there is a place in the continent to find nice traditional black women, because most of us do prefer black women. If that's what we're into, we're going to have to start digging to find those places, keeping a list of where they're not affected by this. So I don't understand it myself, to be honest. But we're going to have to start having lists of where it is on the continent, our home continent, that you can find someone that's traditional. And I know that they exist, but the issue is going to be this. One of the ways that this sort of traditionalism or tradition in different parts of Africa gets eroded to where the women just start looking down on the men and trying to harm the men is that the women who are traditional begin to get made fun of. And this does happen. They're made fun of by other women, just like in Nigga America, when sisters that don't hate us are made fun of by the ones that do. Those who value us are made fun of by the ones who don't. That's what we're dealing with. So it looks like a lot of it we can hang up unless you know of a specific part where they're still traditional. We just have to hang it up. The only reasons to go looking for a wife there will be if you know a part that's traditional, or you're going to look to see where it is so that you can tell other brothers. That's it. Right now with Southeast Asia, and we don't know how long we got left. And mind you, again, I'm not talking about so you can fornicate. I'm talking about so that you can have a wife and a family. That's why I keep mentioning that. You can have, but you can have a wife with, you can have a family with a wife that actually prefers you and doesn't look down on you because you're a black man and some other colonizer man was able to take things from you like they were able to take things from them. That's why I don't even mention East Asia. You know, China's lost. Leftover women are they're even worse in terms of their demands than the women that are not leftover. So they can't find anybody. Got a bunch of single men, never been married, and they're going to die by themselves. No wives, no children. That's what you got going on in China. But these dudes are like, yeah, I'm old now. I don't mind it. And I'm not worried about my old age and I ain't got no kids. It wasn't my fault. I just do the best I can. That's what you got going on in China. So that's why I don't tell you about China. That's why I don't say go to China and look for you a traditional wife in China. You ain't gonna find that. You can watch Chinese historian, and he'll tell you why they can't match up, why couples can't form in China. And not only that, a former student of mine from the Muslim school in which I taught in the United States was living with his Chinese girlfriend from China. She had a boyfriend back in China, but he was living with her where they were going to school in the States. He said he was violating her butt. Yeah, the way that we're not allowed to do in Islam, even when you're married. He was doing that. He said, I know the reason I'm successful with women in general is because I'm toxic as hell. And I'm toxic because my parents were toxic to each other. That's what he told me. He was talking about women in general. He didn't say black or white, just women in general. He said that. So when I tell you Asia, I usually tell you Southeast Asia, where even if they are loose and they pay for play, they know how to behave. And I don't advocate women that pay for play for you dudes, because I don't advocate fornication. However, I still have to tell you that you got to go where they know how to behave. They can treat you like you mean something to them. If Elle was given massages before Richie Mack settled down with her, Elle knows how to behave now. Would I have made the same decision? No, but Elle knows how to behave. Elle did not bring her child to Richie Mack and say, you raise him. I just let the other dude nut me, but it's your job to be stepdad. She ain't do that. And he didn't bring his daughters to her and be like, no, you gonna raise them. He didn't do nothing. Neither one of the two of them did this to each other. So it's a fair exchange, you could say. And they're living together, just shacking up. I'm not allowed to advocate that. But what I am saying is that she has a way of treating him fairly and looking out for him and treating him well so that he can treat her well. She has a way of doing that. You could marry and commit to a sister in the West or on the continent, from what some of you brothers are telling me. And what they're going to do, they're going to cheat, bring you their kids by other men, deny you, and then turn around and blame you for the experience you don't have. So they're going to apply double standards to you, and then they want to act like you're oppressing them when you start to apply double standards in reverse. No, we do double standards around here. We just do them in opposite direction because they still wind up being fair. I titled this Misandrymavros because that's what you're facing. You're not facing misogyny, which is the hatred of black women. You're facing Misandrymavros. Some of you call it misandry noir. But you're facing Misandrymavros, which is the hatred of black men. You're facing that from chicks that can't talk correctly and they can't write correctly in their first language. And then when somebody shows at least some respect for men that don't do any harm, they want to turn around and jump on that woman, beat her down. And that's why some of us feel like no women who's even discussing the issue is our ally. There's some men who feel like this. AC has a no Keisha policy at his channel, and nobody but black men really. He has that at his channel because he knows that there's a need for that somewhere. And it's his channel. He's free to do it. Quiet as is kept. If he saw me, he might tell me to stay away. If he could visually see me, he may say to me, no, you're not. Thanks for the support, but get back. He might say that. But the point is that there has to be somewhere something like that because sisters got it. And that's how they've been able to run these games so organizedly. And we don't know about it. As long as we didn't know about it, they've been had it. What is their internet? The hair salon. They've been on phones and they've been with each other at the hair salon, and they haven't always had to work to maintain a living. So they've been able to just spend a lot of time talking about how to manipulate men and systems. But we men have not discussed this in exchange. And that's where Manosphere Hall of Fame has been right. And where I've been right. They've been sitting up. We have been sitting here making it too easy. And they've not been doing that. And it gets to the point where amongst us, they even have many black men being misandrists, gynocrats, misandrists, hating black men. But yeah, it's bad. But what happened with ISIS really did something when I found out, first when I heard what she said, just listening to her talk about, well, my husband did this to our daughters. I thought, yeah, how likely is that to be the truth? Could it be the truth? Yeah, it could be, but how likely is that? I mean, what black man do you know this day and age is really going to do something like that when he got with the mother real quick and they don't even know each other like that? What black man you know is just going to be okay with that? We willing to take that risk? I don't know black men that are okay with that. That's what I'm telling you. I don't know black men that, I mean, even if they're sick, that's not something they want to try to do. Most brothers ain't, I mean, most men in general are not into that. But see, that's just it. Either way it goes, ISIS is a monster because either she was so neglectful because money was dangled in front of her that she put the kids in danger, or she's the danger herself because she's willing to lie. Either way it goes, she's neglectful. Either way it goes. It turned out, though, that she was actually, from what his niece was saying, it turns out she's even worse than the regular form of neglect because she didn't trust the new husband. She covered for her son, who was the danger to the other kids, and decided to throw the innocent black man under the bus. That did something to me to hear about it. First, just listening to her side of the story, I thought, nah. But you know what? I want to wait until something comes out. I thought we were going to hear about an investigation or something of that nature. I don't know which state she's in, so I didn't assume that the police would just right off the bat arrest the man. I figured they might get around to it. Maybe they'll arrest, then investigate, or the reverse. I didn't really know. I mean, I don't know how the states handle this. I'm not the expert on that. But then the niece came forward and said, look, here, you get arrested. And some other people came forward and said, well, the standard procedure of different states is that he would have been arrested on some accusation like that, even if he has to be tried and convicted. In order to be convicted and really do time, he still would be arrested as part of the investigation. But then it turns out they were already getting the divorce when she finally came out and said this stuff anyway. I said, okay, all right. She wouldn't wait 6 weeks to tell us that if they're already getting a divorce. That's not what happened. It's a money grab. That's what that is. And that it ate me up because I know that even though I haven't faced it that bad, a lot of you brothers in here have been falsely accused. Some of you whom I can see in here, some of you whose names I can see, I remember stories of you being falsely accused. And you shouldn't have to face something like that. Some of you, even by women to whom you are related by blood. Some of you had stuff like this done to you when by your own sisters or moms or cousins or aunt. Just you were lied on for something you didn't do, whether it was below the belt or above the belt. Whatever the case was, some of you had that happen to you. Shouts out to Gail for coming through on the Cash App. And I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. And this is something that I also wanted to point out. Some of you don't face stuff like this, but you're always an inch away from it. Look what Vector 313 said. If you have anything that you can lose just due to an arrest without a conviction, if you have anything for that, anything like that, then they're out there sitting up. They're always saying they could do this, that, or the other. I worked with a man years ago, and you know the funny thing was, I thought that I was lucky because as unhappy as I was in the marriage in which I was at that time, I thought, well, I don't have to go through nothing like this. A brother that worked with us, colleague of ours, and he was new at the job, got picked up and taken into custody by some local police. And the funny thing was that the boss had to send an email saying, don't mention it. He's not been convicted. And there is evidence that he really didn't do it. And I saw him later on. I said, hey, man, how did you deal with that fear of being handcuffed and put in the back seat of the car? Because I was Muslim by this point, and I had nightmares about police coming to kill me frequently because this was it was happening to Muslims, not them just being shot and killed, but there were Muslims I knew they were just being picked up. And they could be law abiding, and they get picked up, and once they were charged, they were convicted. At that point, it was the U.S. had 100% conviction rate. 100% if you were Muslim, a particular charge. He wasn't Muslim, but I was. I was like, how'd you deal with that fear? And he said, I had to know that she was never going to be able to prove what she said. She could get me arrested, but not convicted. And then he showed me text messages from the same chick from after the arrest. I'm sorry for calling the cops on you. You ain't deserve that. Why don't you come over and I'll give you some? And I'll give you some. Oh, that's supposed to make up for what you did? He showed me the text. And this is what really gives it away. Right there. When they turn around and do this, nobody does anything. They don't get lumps on their heads or hands or faces or lips, nothing like that. They don't get these things. It's funny because if a chick steals your female relative's man and that man is successful, and your female relative loses income and a lifestyle, she has to hurt the other chick physically if she can catch her. She has to do it. But you let somebody falsely accuse you and that female relative, though she'll be ticked, does not go and physically harm that female that lied. But we will. You do something to one of our lady relatives, or even if you just say that she let you do something and it wasn't true, we want blood. This is one of those things right there that you got to notice. Now, if they're not going to do that, can they at least be submissive? Nope. No, they cannot. One of the curses of being a black man is being underappreciated by black women. And I'm realizing as time goes on that this is not limited to nationality or one or two cultural groups within the race either. Now, like I said, I don't have a map as to where it is that this is the truth and where it's not. I know Africa is diverse, but I'm beginning to learn more and more about how ridiculous some of these standards can be for black men to qualify for marriage. No wonder they go to Thailand. And even though most of the people in Thailand are Buddhists and will pray in front of a statue, brothers feel a sense of relief when they finally find them a Thai chick. Solomon, I'm not even gonna lie. This hurts. It does hurt like hell. Sometimes your lady relatives will hear the false accusations and they can believe it. They'll hear false accusations, look at you, and they're trying to look at you and read your face to see if you actually did it. But when they're looking at you, what they're really doing is they're looking at your nose and your lips and your hair texture. That's why one of the worst things you can be is an average or unattractive looking man facing a false accusation in the West in front of sisters. Hell, in front of Western women in general. But really, any man facing false accusations in front of the women of his own race is in a bad situation. Because if you were an average to unattractive looking white fella, white women are going to say, yeah, he looks like he did it. He would do it. He looks like he does that. Yeah. And they don't, maybe they're saying it consciously, maybe subconsciously. If you're Latin American, but you're not Cholo and you get that kind of accusation, yeah, it looks like he would. And sisters do that with us. So really in the West, a lot of women do this to whatever men are of their own race. But you get to a point where they start being willing to believe that they start being willing to believe that men in general will do this. Some of them will. I forgot the name of the man years ago, but he was already facing this with his ex-wife, and then his girlfriend, who was an Asian American, was pregnant, and she said, I would do what your wife did and get this kid taken away from you. So he just went ahead and popped her, went to the ex-wife's house, did a live stream, and then turned it off, and then he popped his ex-wife and did himself in. Now, this I was not aware of. I knew that you had some mothers that would do this to their daughters-in-law because their daughters-in-law uh, paid a dowry to be with the son, and maybe they just wanted to take that money, and then the son could marry someone else. Um, I've heard of that, what they call dowry killings and things of that nature, because the Hindus pay the dowry in the opposite direction. But I did not know that if a woman falsely accused a man and the mother could catch her, she'd burn the woman alive. I did not know about that. That uh, that tells me that they probably love their sons more than a lot of sisters love their sons. And what does this do to the sisters that love their sons? It gives them a bad reputation. I mean, if I told you how much my mom tried and how sincere her efforts were, some of you wouldn't get jealous because we're not a hating group of people in general. But some of you might think I'm just lying, like, oh, he's covering for his mom. I would do the same thing, but I know what she did. Some of you might think so. I wouldn't expect some of you to believe that. But that's just it. I mean, my mom in certain ways is like a bolt out of the blue. My own father has said this. He said she's been like this since before you guys were born, obviously. But the point is that that's what this does. And so just like good men have always been the casualty in the gender war when it comes to misandry, but good men have always been the casualty of misandry, especially Misandrymavros. Good women are going to wind up being a casualty, except in one case. And it's not just about getting with a man. It's not only going to be about that, but the only ways they will not necessarily be casualties and catch strays will be, number one, they go and pursue the men that they want. And number two, they defend men who don't cause trouble. They defend normal men from the accusations and the slander that men face. Those are going to be the two ways. And these are going to be ways that invite two things to them. Number one, going after men they want, like they go after jobs. That's something even a lot of good women can't bring themselves to do. It opens them up to rejection. Even they don't like that. But they'll have to face it. And that's because of the length of time that previous generations of well-meaning women were just silent. And then they're going to have to stand up to or counter the voices of the misandrists. And that's going to open them up to retaliation and fights by other women. But they're going to have to face that too. These are two experiences that can cause them to feel a sense of loss of their femininity. They will still have to face it. Both of these things, actually, in order to not catch strays from the men that they seek to defend. Because when we start putting these double standards in place, or rather in the opposite direction, it's only going to increase a lot of the pushback. And another thing, gentlemen, I straight up said before, and I've been saying this for a while, that we're not doing what we do because we're teaching ladies anything in particular, the ones that are adults now today. We're not teaching the modern day ladies, and we're not teaching the modern day lionesses, and we're not teaching the modern day hyenas anything that they must do differently. It's not to teach them a lesson. They can't learn it. They're going to have to go through certain things like solitude and in old age and becoming cat ladies and buying roses and us making money because we're investing in batteries and things like that. They're going to have to go through these things, these consequences, but we're not teaching them lessons. They can't learn to value you. They can't learn not to crap test you. Glorilla can't learn that it's okay to be a man's piece while she's young. Glorilla's not going to learn that until she's old and infertile and her looks fade and probably when her money's going to. And even then, she will not be able to appreciate a man that actually would take her up on the new her. So that's out. What we are doing is we're teaching today's boys to not tolerate certain crap before they become tomorrow's men. And we're teaching today's girls not to expect to get away with certain crap before they become tomorrow's women. That's really the gist of what we're doing. You can't alpha your way out of this. You cannot walk into the room with the right alpha energy and they stop that mess. Crimson Cure has said that even these butch women would turn around and be feminine for the right man. There's no right man, though. I mean, there are some men they're afraid to do this to, but that's usually based on stereotypes. And the fear is very superficially based. Well, you know, he's built and he's 6 feet and he's dark skinned and he's bald headed and he's got the beard. So yeah, she might look in front of that. She might get in front of that man because she's scared to test him. Maybe. But that's still very superficially based fear. Folks, it's time for me to hit the hay. It's late here. It's about to be 8 and I'm an old man. So, and I've only gotten one Cash App for one of our sisters, and it means no harm. And wants a fair shake between the two. And actually, this sister has gone up against another lady who was willing to advocate for men, but who was also willing to apparently fake her own image to a certain extent to do it. That's one donor this evening. The rest, well, you know what? I've had a lot of work I've had to do today. I had a long day. Every Sunday for me is a long day. I figure I'll turn in early tonight, relatively early, and it might be the best way. So, Michael Ross, I appreciate you mentioning PayPal. I don't don't have it. I had a colleague that was willing to do it, uh, willing to take them for me, but I don't live in the same city as him anymore. And while I guess he could send it through Cash App, it takes him a while because he's still here. I don't want to run the risk of his Cash App never working for him again. But what I'll do, Ross, is I will put in the URL right here for my Buy Me a Coffee account. That is where I have the Jet Black lounge access in both business class for $5 a month and first class for $10 a month. And that's where I put content that I don't have up here. Some things on there are free, but most of it is only if you've either made a one-time donation, which you can do, or for the same amount every month, you could be a business class flyer. You can see a lot of the content. First class can see everything. And that's where I put things like SIAS, Sermons in a Sentence, where I put up, and right now I got a lot of confessions, about 32 or 33 confessions, just confessions by some hyenas at the games that they play or the attitudes that they have. Got about 32 or 33 of them up there right now. It's worth it. So just those two by themselves would be worth it. And they keep coming. But in addition to that, I give some insights into living abroad. Some old videos that I was able to take away from the old Patreon. I was able to move them over here so that you can see things like if you're going to use your laptop to make money, how to keep it running well and in the best shape for cheap, either for free or for cheap. And what it's like to live and teach specifically here. So that is worth it over there. And Gail, I see where you said that you're still in court, and I'm sorry about that. I know that you can't really discuss the case because it's still ongoing. But at some point, when it's over and you're allowed to discuss it again, I want people to know about it, so that while she'll already get credit anyway for the things that she's done to advocate, she will not get credit for any levels of authenticity she did not reach. That's fair is fair. Getting back to this before I go, Solomeo mentioned that Crimson Q has been wrong in many assessments. She has been wrong. Now, she tends to correct them when she understands them. When she understands the error. She used to say that responsible, community-minded men were the dishwashers and that their job was to be stepdads, and she stopped thinking that way. She and Angry Man both were on that. She stopped saying that. You wouldn't catch her saying that now. But she once said that some of these butch women would turn around and be feminine in front of real masculine men. Some of them will, but a lot of them will not. And while that phenomena does exist, and just like Dr. BOA said, the phenomena does exist. But that's not something many of us can rely on. See, a lot of times, even the Westernicia's assessment of manhood is very superficial. So they may not even realize this, but they cannot assess many of us as being real men for whom they could be feminine if they were not feminine in other cases. And that's not acceptable. We can't afford to tolerate that mindset that they're talking, because many of us will think, well, if I just get my stuff together and if I just become a better man and make more money and get more muscle, and they start thinking, well, if I just get these things together, oh, well, then guess what? Everything's okay. No, that's not what would happen. You mess around here and you try to get all these things together. Then what's next? Okay, well, if I were just taller, well, you can't fix that. See, then they just start pointing to things that you don't have control over. Or if I could just put it down in the bedroom, well, you've only experienced the women that you've experienced. And Sergeant Willie Pete has a post up on his community tab. Women can't expect a man to know his way around the bedroom and be monogamous, because
If he knows his way around the bedroom without a woman having to communicate and tell him, that means he's been experienced. To be experienced, he can't be monogamous. Which one is it? And then he straight up said that the men can't run through B words and then expect to find virgins to marry later. And that's true. But see, we men already understand that. We're forced to understand that. The ladies have to understand that they can't find these bedroom masters to be monogamous to them. That's the thing that we still can't get them to understand. They're still demanding that these bedroom masters be monogamous to them and only them. No, it doesn't work like that. Most men are not running through bitches. And they still can't find a virgin to marry. And that's where, again, while he's right, there's only one of those things that needs to be emphasized. Peace DN 3001. I'm sorry, 30,001. What's good with you? Gail, the truth be told, Minnie F. Baby, well, she said she was married. Uh, yeah, she said she was married. Apparently, they're not anymore. But she was saying this stuff, and even if she was saying it to go viral, the fact is that she can go viral for this. See, she chose to say this because the women would not come after her. That means that she still does not care about the men telling her something's wrong, but she would care if the women ostracized her. And that still tells you what the mindset is, Gail. She's one of those that has refused to stand up to the ones to whom you are standing up. You see, you can tell a lot about a society's collective morality by what they will support and also by what you can sell to them profitably. And if you can't open up a gas station and keep it open without selling liquor because the gas is not going to make you enough, it means that the society would rather be drunk than going places. And that's what this is here. You're out here having to oppose a lady that will advocate for men, but will lie about certain things in an image to do it. And you're not even tearing the carpet from underneath her, but you're fighting it in court. And you're supporting men who look out for their own interest and protect themselves. And you're not blaming men who do this. You're taking on almost the hyenocracy. You're certainly unpopular with them. Minnie F. Baby is catering to them and the lowest level amongst them. If she wants to go viral and you want to go viral, if you don't want to go viral, even, you still look at to whom she's catering to go viral, who she's not willing to take on, who has the most courage between the two of you, Gail. I give you a hint, it's not her. This one here is an issue. But all that means is that they're just looking for reasons. Well, you said it here, actually, yeah. You said it there. They're just looking for reasons. Now, Salomea, when you said this, which woman was it that was holding ISIS's husband accountable? Which woman was that? Someone type accountable in the chat. What's happening, nerd guy? Okay. Now, if got it, okay. Crimson Cure said that. Now, if the niece came out and is in a sense exonerating the husband, And Crimson Cure, it's a matter of time, but Crimson Cure is going to come out and say, okay, if he didn't do it, he didn't do it, and he shouldn't be punished for it. Now, I didn't realize that she pretty much said, oh, he did it, and that's it. I remember her addressing it, but she was talking about ISIS. But since the niece has come out, at some point, Crimson Cure will have to address it. Quiet as it's kept, our religion demands it. She will either have to put it in a post or she'll have to upload it in a video. But our religion demands that if she held him accountable. I want you all, if you can, to start paying attention to the confessions. Before I go, I'll leave that advice with you. Start paying attention to these confessions. Minnie F. Baby took one of the things that made my Buy Me a Coffee account valuable, and she began to compete with that value. She did not know about my Buy Me a Coffee account, the Jet Black Air Lounge. She was unaware of that. But she still got up there and made these confessions on the Big Facts podcast, Talking to Big Bank. And when she began to confess this stuff, she almost undermined about a third of my confessions. That's how much she exposed. But I want you guys to pay attention to something that would steal her thunder and her lightning even. Let me say it would steal her thunder. Something else would do that, and that is this. That's the actual lightning. Lightning itself is very quick and it's silent. But it generates enough heat to where it causes the air to clap around it. And then we hear that. And that's the thunder. I want you guys to look at Poor Man's Podcast and Red Femme Diaries. I'm going to type in the chat the search term that you're going to need. Putting it in now. If you were to type this right there, if you were to type that into a search on YouTube, hell, as a matter of fact, if you were to go to my Odyssey page, I think you could find it. That is where she confessed to quite a few of these things. Red Femme Diaries had the channel. Her name was Nyla, but that's her channel's name. She passed away due to cancer. Maybe it was August of 2022. She passed away, but I discovered it in about August of 2023 or July of 2023. Take a look at the channel, but especially that particular one. And you're going to hear quite a few confessions. Then you're going to hear many of them summarized if you go to my Buy Me a Coffee account and you subscribe. Then you're going to see shorter confessions that are summarized. If you know someone that is walking around in a daze thinking that there is no gender conflict and that most people of either gender are just innocent or that most ladies are innocent, best thing for you to do is to tell them, listen, just for a month, even just for 1 month, go ahead and pay for this subscription. The reason is because they can then find the confessions and they will see what they need to see. They'll need to know about these things to defend themselves. before I go, I want to give you guys a shout out and thank you all for supporting. Even if you did not come through on Cash App, I appreciate you all hitting the share button later on. But uh, shouts out to S. Jock and Gail and Knight for coming through on the Cash App. Don't underestimate the hatred that you are facing. Keep that in mind, please. It is not a joke. You don't have to walk around paranoid. Edward Allen Anderson uh, described accountable commentary as being hypervigilant, and he is to a certain extent. But much of the hypervigilance comes about when somebody finds out of a conspiracy and the depths to which the conspiracy runs. It doesn't come from a vacuum. I want you guys to get yourselves as familiar as possible with the evidence without becoming paranoid as much as you possibly can, but you still need to know and you need to put other brothers up on this game. And I want you guys to not stop at telling some older teenagers that are about to go to college or about to graduate from high school what this game is. You need to let some guys in middle school know this. When these young ladies are not even close to puberty, they've been gamed up so much. We need to make sure that these young men, young black boys, go into puberty gamed up, knowing what these things are, knowing what discussions have already been had about them, knowing what value they actually have and what value women are capable of perceiving in them. If they know what these things are when they get started, they'll be able to handle them correctly. I'm going to tell you now that when I go on my Buy Me a Coffee, whenever that is, and I sit up and I write out and then record and then upload what it is that you're going to need to know to be able to fight back, and what you're going to be able to tell these brothers so that they can fight back, these young brothers, they're going to have a particular mindset. And before any fighting back advice that I might give you becomes really valuable, the mindset of understanding the threat is necessary, even for these young brothers. If they know the threat, then when they reach puberty and they start asking how to fight back, they'll be ready for what it is that you're going to lay on them, and they'll know what the reason is. Let me give shouts out right now. I'm not going to say whole names, but shouts out to H. Prodigioso. He said, brothers are lost in Mobile, and I assume that's Mobile, Alabama. Coming from the Gulf Coast region, and actually my mother's family comes out of Mobile, I got to tell you, man, I'm not shocked. Big Ward, who does the podcast from his truck, his work truck, sanitation truck, I think is in Mobile, and he's been talking about how bad it gets. He was trying to talk bad about so-called incels and maybe passport bros, and then he began to find out, wait a minute, this is what they've been saying, and this is why. Oh, this is very telling right here. Wait till he finds out about SYSBM. But see, this is very telling. Men that initially are labeled as misogynists and dismissed as just a bunch of misogynistic incels, once listened to, become understood as finally reacting to that which has been a provocation for a long time, but to which previous generations of men were desensitized, and to which current generations of black men and even other men are not willing to be desensitized anymore. I also want to give a shout out to Mel Mel R, as well as DJ DN 3 30,001. Yeah, DJ DN 30,001 shouts out for coming through on the Cash App. I appreciate that. So I'm going to be going a little bit longer before I turn in because you've earned it. Um, when you send these confessions to somebody, and those of you that are subscribed should feel free to go ahead and send these confessions, the links to confessions to some of these brothers. Um, I don't mind if they subscribe for a month just to see the confessions caught up and then they hit the share button. They could unsubscribe if they wanted to save money, but I would just ask you to ask them to hit the share button when they do. Take a look at this, guys. If I can scroll this down. What Galen Knight said is how this is coming to where I live. The Middle East is experiencing a spread of Nasawiya, which is feminism. I'm going to tell you guys about this before I turn in. At some point, and Compassionate and Callous is aware of this, and I won't say any more than that right now, but he's aware. At some point, those of us who have left are going to have to try to make local men aware. I'm going to tell you why I have not really been able to do that here. Number one, these men here don't listen. They just talk a lot. That's why I can't teach my students English. But number two, what's more an issue here is that the women here are hiding it. It's a good sign that they must hide it, but they're hiding it. The internet is how it is spreading. The other thing is that the men here understand feminism exists, but they don't know its details because these men here don't make much effort to actually learn English. As a rule, not compared to their sisters. Their sisters are here taking education seriously, including English, and even sometimes of the foreign languages. Their sisters are learning. And they're picking up these things in English and in French through the internet faster than their male relatives can understand what's going on. Some of you may have heard this story before, but maybe only once, a long time ago. My wife and I were visiting her sister and her sister's husband. My wife's niece speaks Arabic and English. And she is a little kid and was a little kid at that time. She had one of these kids' tablets, and the tablet had stories pre-programmed into its memory for children. Here's the problem: the tablets that have these stories programmed in, that are sold in the Middle East, are already sneaking immoral messages into these kids. There was a story about a wife cheating on her husband, and the husband knowing that she cheated because she turned up pregnant after he had a successful vasectomy. This was one of the kids' stories. My wife's niece was 4 years old. I was sitting with my brother-in-law, my wife's brother-in-law, and my wife's niece at the time of this. He was watching TV in Arabic. He didn't know what the story said. I asked him if he could lower the volume on the TV, and he did. And I said, listen, were you able to hear your daughter's story right now on the tablet? And he was like, no, I didn't hear it. And I said, okay, so were you able to understand what you could hear? He said, no, it was too fast, and it's in English. I'm still learning. And I told him, fortunately, I could tell him in Arabic. I said, man, that's a story about a wife cheating on the husband and how the husband should forgive this sort of thing because it's a woman's right to make mistakes in life. And he turned to his daughter and said, bring me the tablet. And we tried to delete the story. I don't know if he was able to or not. And he's a police captain. I want you guys to know that the internet is spreading this stuff even over here. You guys have an advantage I don't. You have access to men who are able to learn English more easily and who do. And if you can, I want you to reach out to the ones that you do know. That is important. To the best of your ability, those of you who can. If you cannot, you cannot. But if you can, do so. This is important. I don't know who William S. Burroughs is, but his quote is something that I might need to go ahead and repeat. A paranoid man is someone who discovered a little of something which wasn't known. A little bit of knowledge will do this. And that's why I say you learn as much about the threat as you possibly can so that you have an understanding that does not actually reach, I wouldn't say it doesn't reach paranoia, but an understanding that doesn't reach an uncontrollable paranoia that turns around and controls you. You do want that much. This is also a lesson for us. Incel should not have even been an epithet to begin with, because incel means involuntarily celibate. You don't disparage somebody for something that is involuntary by definition. So once you describe that they are involuntarily celibate, you've already exonerated them. It's one thing to say that somebody doesn't do something. It's completely different when you say they can't. Once you say that someone cannot, they are not accountable to do it. They're not responsible to do it. I tell my students all the time, if I call one of you retarded, you're not actually retarded, but you're imitating them. If you were actually truly retarded, I would not mind you making some of the errors. I would let you off the hook. But if you are not retarded, you imitate them, you are still accountable as if you're not retarded, because you're not. It is in the West where something most men cannot do, which is run through bitches. And I'm not calling every woman the B word, but the way that they would describe it, the way that the society, even those who castigate incels, would describe it. It's running through women, running through bitches, running through a bunch of vaginas, prolifically fornicating. If this is something most men can't do, and some men cannot do at all, and they can't get married, then how do you castigate them? This is another thing. Anytime a man commits a crime against a mass of people, that's what they're going to call him. Shot up a school, oh, he wasn't getting no draws. I don't know how true that is, but no. Nonetheless, you're going to be called this. And I want you to know that you're going to have to tell these young brothers when you share this information with them that if they share it, that they can expect to be called this sort of thing, but they have to be ready to reply. They got to be prepared to reply if they choose to share this, because them sharing this with other brothers their age could get them labeled as such, but they got to be ready to say, wait a minute, no, see, and think of a reply ahead of time, but they still are going to be needed to share this. Because otherwise, Minnie F. Baby is going to be able to not only continue to do what she's doing, but she will be able to continue. She will be able to teach this to her own kids. She'll be able to teach her son to be used and teach her daughters to be users. Shouts out to R. Campbell for coming through on Cash App. Thank you from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. But now take a look at this. I want you guys to remember this. This is something I might put into my sermon in a sentence. If men know how to woo women, then these men will not tell on women. What it really is that if they learn or they're able to woo women without understanding them, then they won't know what to tell. If they understand women, whether or not they get the draws, they will understand what to tell. That's the real truth of the matter. But using incel as an insult is exactly this. When they use it as one, it is exactly a way of saying, well, you only have something to say about women if you failed. And this is a way to exonerate all of them. You see, I'm going to tell you all something about anxiety. Do you know that one of the things that can give a non-anxious person anxiety? There are two things that can do this, and they tend to go together. Number one, responsibility without authority. Now, do you black men not suffer from that? You suffer from that. You give them responsibility, but you don't have the authority. But by the same token, mixed messages will also give somebody anxiety. Do you not suffer from that? Well, most men in the West are given mixed messages. Now, men in traditional societies are oftentimes given very little information about women. They're just not told a whole lot. So there's a question mark and there's a confusion, but they're not blamed for what they don't know and don't understand. And they're not given mixed messages. So this might be why they could have they could have a lack of anxiety regarding women. They just say, well, I don't know about them that much. Oh my God. What the hell? How do you call your own father a name like that? That you call your own dad an insult. That's like saying, well, you know, my dad's a hopeless virgin. So what did he do? Adopt you? See, for her to say something like that, that pretty much means that she's saying her mother cheated on someone or cheated on Elon Musk and then passed her off as Elon's daughter. That's what that's saying. You got to be careful with this. This woman, Elon Musk's daughter, if that's actually his daughter, just sat up and said that he's not her father. That's what the hell this would mean. Involuntarily celibate, unless she's saying that at one point he wasn't and then he became one. What happened? Did he get into a car accident and he get paralyzed from the waist down? Doesn't look like it. We would have heard about that if that were the case. God have mercy. So anxiety can come from these things. And I'm not saying this as a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm just telling you that these are the things I know that can cause an anxiety. Now, I'll leave it to the experts to tell you if it can become permanent or if it stays temporary only. But I do know that someone who doesn't have it can develop it, whether it's temporary or permanent, if they're subjected to these things long enough. That I know. And I'm going to leave with this. Black men, I'm not going to sit up here and call you magical, but you are miraculous. You are miraculous because you've been exposed to these things for centuries, internally and externally, and you have not developed any worse than what we have. We do have certain PTSD responses. I call it post-traumatic slave disorder. Joy DeGruy, the psychologist, calls it PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. I got to tell you, however you want to label it, we do have it to a certain extent, men and women, but you black men have not been walking around with nervous tics and neurotic and psychotic on average. You have maintained your sanity, especially better than anybody could be expected to in this kind of situation. This, I realized more recently, I have come to realize is true whether you were FBA or Caribbean or from the continent. Especially the misandrous parts of the continent, you've really been held to all these insane standards. I wish you hadn't, but you have been. You are miraculous for not developing these things. One of the things I know that's raised my blood pressure is seeing some of the stuff you've had to go through collectively and on individual bases as well. And yet here you guys are, having had to go through the same thing that I just mentioned, and yet and still, you have not lost your minds. Not only that, but to make matters worse, you're always subjected to these nasty false accusations. Every time I turn around, and make no bones about it, when a black man is falsely accused of certain things, it's really an indictment on black men in general. And you've had to face this multiple times, and yet look at you. When you have had to face this, what have you not done? You have not lost your minds collectively. I've been stressed and overwhelmed at work, and I told my friend B Deep, also known as Dark Matter, who lives in Riyadh. Shout out to him. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Told him how I've been overwhelmed, and I have been. I haven't even been on WhatsApp to catch up because I had trouble using it. And I even now, I mean, I was supposed to probably start catching up, but I said, let me go live. I need this. I've been overwhelmed. To the point where if my phone rings, I flip out because it interrupts me doing something. But I got to tell you guys, man, one of the things he said to me was, Black, you are going to get through this. You're a black man. This will not break you. He was able to take it for granted. So we are certainly miraculous. We resemble Adam, alayhi salam. We are what's left of his resemblance and the resemblance of Musa, alayhi salam, Moses. So a lot of what we face is going to be because of the devil hating Adam and thereby hating human beings as a whole. And one of the things that the devil loves is false accusations. You guys face this all the time. I have had this happen, of course, everybody faces it, but I have lost my mother cuss word mind about this before. You guys have faced this kind of stress repeatedly, and you haven't. People who really stop and think about this have had to objectively realize that they should tip their hats to you because you didn't screw this up. It's something that they did. People have had to realize that your enemies have done these things to you. The oppressors who are oftentimes their own enemies. But you've been so calm about this. I was unaware of SWP saying these things or mentioning this, but anyway, getting back on target, I wanted to mention this to you, brothers. You have a lot of reasons to hold your head up. You have plenty of reasons to do it. You're not always right, but you've done a good job of not becoming a bunch of paranoid schizophrenics with nervous tics and having developed the same symptoms and causes and outright illnesses that others would have if they had been subjected to just a fraction of what you've been subjected to. partially as repeatedly and partially as often as you've had to face them. I've seen that there are times when we go off into extremes, but since my discovery of the black manosphere, I've also noticed that there's usually a point after which you brothers tend to find a balance. After an initial reaction to something, you brothers tend to find a balance in a very cool and calm head. And you tend to be the brothers that wind up at least trying to travel, if not living elsewhere. There was a time when if you took someone like Jordan Peterson saying this, and I remember him saying exactly what Judgment Wolf's Den is quoting him to say now. I remember seeing the same video. There was a time when many of us would have said, well, if he's a psychologist or a psychiatrist, clinical and licensed and all that, then he must be right. I remember that. Now what do we say? We look and we say, okay, you're allowed to have your own choice, bro, but you're not allowed to escape the consequences. Nowadays, we're able to take a more objective look, even when someone is an expert, and we're able to say, well, this is what it means if you actually are right. Are you prepared to go that far, ma'am or sir, in what you're saying? To be honest with you, when Jordan Peterson called MGTOW men weasels, the only reason that there was enough strength for him to perceive to make him say, nah, you know what, I probably shouldn't say that, is because of the black manosphere. He apologized to the manosphere, but it was the black manosphere that would have had the strength of platform and logic for him to stop and say, wait a minute, I can't call them weasels because they do everything and they hold everything down and they get no credit. You see, the white manosphere's strength really comes from things that the black manosphere and black people in general were the first to say. We do the work, we don't get the credit. Because it was true. You even are the secret to America's strength. Is it waning now? Yeah. But notice that at the same time that America's strength wanes and we can see America becoming more geriatric, less central to the rest of the world, it is the same time that you, black men, are looking at other places to not only visit, but to live and work. You are the secret to America's strength. It's you. When I travel and my passport is strong, it is because of you. When I take US dollars and then I swipe an account with US dollars in it, and then I swipe one of these cards here and I spend in reals and it comes out as a few dollars, it's because of you. And I'm not taking any credit away from sisters that have actually backed you up and helped you. But they themselves have said that it's because of you. So truth be told, I've even had black folks from other nationalities look and say, yo, black, when times get rough, they say, black, do this one bit at a time. You are tired, but you're a black man. You're going to get through this. I've had my wife who's not a black American. Historically speaking, she is technically, legally, she's black with the US passport, but who does not come from FBA origins sit up and say, no, you a strong black man. If we put our heads together, we got this. I've had her say, I worry about how I'm going to teach the next week until you come in and help. You a strong black man. We went and saw that movie Gladiator 2. Now, we didn't know about the scene that they cut out. Denzel was the one that made mention of that scene in which his character kisses a man. We didn't know about that. We would have never known. But you look at the way that he talentedly acts and carries out different characters. Same man, same voice, but rather he is Malcolm or Alonzo or I think what's his name, Lactaeus, whatever character it is, he's able to bring them to life in a way that only we can bring historical characters to life, whether it's a black British actor or a black American actor like him. And it goes beyond acting. The point is the ability to understand so many different people to where we can harness that to depict them on screen from so many different contexts. It's like we're the root, so we simply just understand the branch that comes out of us as the root. So therefore, for us, if we choose to go into acting and developing it, it's nothing. That's the truth of the matter. You are the miracle. You're not God, you're not divine, and you're not magical. I'm not going to talk this spooky stuff. But you are what remains in the resemblance of a miracle of God. And I'm seeing this all the time. The devil throws so much stuff at you designed to break you because the devil knows how fragile human beings are psychologically in general. He does this and you don't break psychologically. And physically, you are formidable in many cases. And your women, well, they call themselves your women, who don't want to listen, try to replace you, and they cannot do it. They're not capable of it, even though they have the capacity to be amazing and miraculous themselves. They want to compete with you and wind up losing everything and everyone in the process because you're the one that can lead them. They can't even really take the leadership of anybody else. And they try to listen to the leadership of Brad, and they can't do that because he doesn't value them. And they pick up on that. So they realize that to follow him, they got to devalue themselves, which they're oftentimes willing to do, but it's not sustainable for people. So they lose their mind, and you still have decades to go before you would lose yours. As a matter of fact, the length of time it would take for you to lose your mind under far more pressure is more than the length of time that any human being would live. So you have a high chance of keeping your natural black mind intact with its sanity long after they've lost theirs. One of the reasons why it is that we have to talk about mental health is because we have been so mentally strong that we tend to overestimate that. But why do we overestimate it? I'm not saying we should. I'm saying that it's understandable that we would, because many of us simply can't understand the fragility. We just naturally understand that our job is to be psychologically strong. We just don't know that the right mental health care makes you psychologically stronger. That's all it is. And after you've gone through the burdens that you've been through, you are perfectly right to seek out someone that can talk you through this stuff without tearing you down. That is a right that you have, another double standard. A right to seek out help and advice that is not about tearing you down because of stuff you've been kept away from. But Boom Shika and Bon Quisha don't have that right. If they want to fix themselves, they got to take accountability. You've already done that. I'm not saying you never have to. I'm saying you don't have any more to take because you've already taken accountability beyond what you're supposed to. What have you done wrong? You've been too easy and you can't read people's minds. You've actually been too easy because you can't read people's minds. And you're up here taking accountability. Well, I failed as a leader. You done taken more than you should. So now we flip also that double standard. No, she needs to go and get accountability with her therapy. You've If you even need therapy as opposed to just regular advice, have every right to look for the advice that will tell you the truth, but does not blame you for what you did not know and control. I hope that what I've said is a benefit. And again, I hope that you all thank R. Campbell, Hardin Prodigioso, DJ DN 30001, Mel and Gail at Night, and S. Jock for coming through on the Cash App, for buying you a little extra time. I appreciate that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. And as always, black, heterosexual, non-select male power, because your enemies don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice forever. And shout out to the replay gang.